A couple of months ago, my wonderful wife Hannah introduced me to a movie that I hadn't seen before. I think it's from about, I don't know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago or so. A teenish action flick, dystopian film called Divergent. And, good, some of you know it. Okay, I hear the laugh. Good. It's fantastic. Towards the beginning, there's a scene where the main character faces a particularly frightening initiation challenge, which she's got to complete in order to join the group that she's really desperate to be a part of. And this challenge has her taken to the top of a tall building and stood right at the edge, up on a ledge, looking down and facing a drop which disappears into darkness. It's an extraordinary distance. She cannot see the bottom, and she's told, jump, jump. She has no idea what might be waiting for her down there. And when she asks, is it safe? What's going to happen to me? The group leader simply responds, go ahead, jump. You'll see. I wonder how often each one of us have, in a variety of ways and at different times in our lives, honestly, perhaps even now, found ourselves in a similar predicament, stood, as it were, on the edge of a major decision, unsure of what seeing it through might mean, unable to see the proverbial bottom, and faced only with the scary unknown, with the choice either jump and see or stay stuck where you are. If any of you are like me, I think we like to have a rather fully worked out plan in advance of doing things. Now, don't hear me wrong, I'm notoriously bad at preparation for minutiae, especially for household things. I'm notoriously bad at forgetting to buy the right groceries at the right time. But longer term, where I'm going with my life, those major decisions, those things I might feel the Lord calling me to, if you're like me, you may like to have a very clear sense of what that's going to look like, or at the very least, have a sense of what the consequences of our actions are going to be. Now, surely at one level, that's just an evolutionary trait designed for our survival, right? We want to know that if I eat that colored berry, something bad's going to happen to me, or if I go down this dark part of the jungle as a caveman, I might run into some kind of risk, whatever. There's some element here of wanting to know what's going to come ahead to try to protect myself, preserve myself, shield myself from any harm. And so we tend to like to know not only what the next step's going to be, but indeed 5, 10, 15, 50, 100 steps down the road, very clearly aware of where that road is going to take us, what its contours are going to be, what its challenges, what its opportunities are, so that we can plan and prepare and emotionally, mentally, physically prepare ourselves for what we're going to encounter. This is a rather silly example of this, but I'm sure most of you all have at some point done one of those trust fall exercises. You know, we do this and lean back. How many of you here, like me, tend to cheat with that and just kind of look just a little bit behind you, but before you fall? I mean, if I do that right now, is Leah going to catch me? I'm not entirely... Well, no, she didn't. Okay. No, I want to have a look behind. There's this sense of, I don't like the unknown. I want to know exactly what's going to happen next. And yet, in the face of this desire of mine to see what lies at the bottom of that black hole before I jump, this desire to carefully weigh up my options and make a calculated and careful decision for myself, the Bible presents a stark contrast about the reality of being a follower of Jesus. A really stark contrast. On this feast of St. Bartholomew, we're called to confront again that hard reality that the life of true discipleship is one which, more often than not, will not allow us to flesh out a carefully prepared plan of action, the contours and challenges and promises of which we may know in advance. On the contrary, when looking at the lives of the apostles, we find a group of people whose lives seem to consist of simply taking the next step, entirely unsure where it might lead, but confident through faith that it is the right one to take. Think back, if you will, to what we hear across the 4 different Gospels about the way in which Christ calls those 12 to himself. Let's establish what he does not do. He is not a very good salesman. Jesus does not have a particularly enticing pitch, does he? He goes up to them and he finds them. He doesn't give them a list of reasons why they should follow him, does he? He doesn't present them with a series of dogmatic statements going, come and believe these things and I'll make this happen. He doesn't give them a set of clear promises going, do this and this is going to happen, then this will happen, and then this will happen, and then you'll be happy. No. What's his one call? Follow me. Follow me. I sometimes wonder what the response was of the family members of those 12. I mean, we know at least that Peter was married. Probably more of them were too. What happened when Peter went home to his wife? I met a guy at the beach. He said, follow me. Bye. I'm following him. Well, what's he going to do? Where's he going to take you? What's going to happen next? I don't know. But I know that the next step is to answer and say yes, just to jump and follow him. And let's not be fooled into thinking that once they took that first step, then everything started becoming easy. We know full well from the gospel stories that indeed things did not get easier for the disciples. Think even after Jesus' resurrection and ascension, when the flame of Pentecost has come down upon them and they're sent out to proclaim his gospel to all worlds, to all lands. Did Jesus give them a very clear map or plan of action, a mission action plan, a step-by-step series of instructions on what to do and how it's going to work out? No. He gave them the entirely ambiguous task. Go. Just go. And tell people about me. One step at a time. One step at a time, jumping into the unknown. And so I wonder in this, what's the Lord calling you to do? What is it that he has put on your heart and asked you to do, no matter how difficult or unclear or out of the ordinary it might seem? I am as sure as I can be that every single person here has something which the Lord has put on your heart to do. Now, for some, this might be something truly momentous. You might be standing on the edge of a major decision about your lifelong vocation. What am I going to do with my life? How am I going to serve? This may be something of a more local level. A broken relationship, a person you haven't reached out to for a long time. What is it that the Lord is asking you to take the initiative in? To take that first step, even if you do not know what it will lead to. It seems to me that our desire to try to discern too far down the path, to try to come up with a clear picture of exactly what decision 1 is going to lead to at decision 15 might be to our detriment. I wonder if some of us are seeking to discern what the 5th step might be, to the neglect of actually going ahead and taking the first, even if what follows is entirely unknown. Because waiting until we find out what step 5 might be, which we probably won't find out, may risk locking us in a cycle of perpetual disobedience, in failing to heed the Lord's call to just take the next step. That's faith in a nutshell, right? Taking just the next right step, knowing nothing else, and unaware of what it might lead to. We know that the Lord calls, that the Lord puts things on our hearts for us to do, whether of extraordinary significance on the global stage or at the equally extraordinary level of interpersonal relationships. But he calls us to take the step. He won't push us. He won't grab us and drag us. He will simply call and wait, and indeed keep on calling. Some of you may know the famous painting that hangs in St. Paul's Cathedral, London, by William Holman Hunt, called The Light of the World. You might have seen it. It shows Christ standing at a door with a whole lot of kind of cobwebs around it, and he's holding a lamp there, and his hand kind of raised as if knocking at the door. I love that image. It speaks, I think, quite powerfully to what we see here, in that we know that the Lord's not going to kick the door down. He's not going to barge in. He's simply going to stand and knock and leave it to you to respond. You don't have to, but I can promise that doing so is only going to be for your good. In the movie that I began with, the main character indeed does jump off the building. And as she plummets through the darkness, she suddenly finds herself caught safely in a net, entirely unharmed. There's always a net. When God calls you to take that step, to jump off that proverbial building, there's always a net. Now, that net, I should say, is likely to look different to what we might expect. I think it might be easy sometimes to take this idea and run with it down the scary trend of prosperity gospel teaching. If you just have enough faith, you're going to get what you want in that net at the bottom. On the contrary, that's not what we see here. As we celebrate the Feast of St. Bartholomew today, consider what his net was. It was a horrific martyrdom by the king of Armenia. A gruesome one, indeed. He was skinned alive. But that was his net, taking just the next step. For Bartholomew, that net won him the crown of glory, the true crown of martyrdom. Because in all this, I can promise you that God's plan for your life is always better than your own. Always better than my own. Whatever I think the net will be, his net is always going to be better. And so the choice is up to us. We can stay, if we choose, at the top of that building, looking down, waiting to see, hoping to see a light at the bottom, something that makes clear where we are headed. But don't wait too long, because the Lord may indeed not intend to turn on a light there. He calls you simply to take that step. Follow me. There's always a net.